Hello gentlemen. Welcome to MGTOW CINEMA. I hope you guys are doing well. And, let me just be clear, I said gentlemen for a reason. MGTOW CINEMA was created for, and is directed toward men who engage in the MGTOW lifestyle. I'm going to address this once and once only. I will not engage any woman, manginas or agents of any kind in debate. You can listen, leave comments and even send verbal jabs, but my advice is that if you have issues with me or MGTOW, don't listen to my channel or visit my site. I'm not interested in talking to you or debating you. This is meant to be a safe space for MGTOW men to converse and debate. We've already made up our mind about who we are. We're not interested in your shaming tactics or bullshit. Since you believe us to be, or at least designate us as angry, bitter, creeps, weirdos, misogynists and losers, you should be happy that we're leaving the chess match. So leave us to it and get back to riding the cock carousel or your boring ass marriage. Your fraudulent and disingenuous attempts to understand MGTOW are a waste of your time and ours. I also know how much it annoys you that men want spaces of their own, but too bad. There are a zillion women-only organizations, charities and meetups for females pretending to do stuff. Go join one of those. And all you manginas, it's simple, get down or lay down. Anyways, since this is my first effort in this regard, it seems only right that I give you a rundown about who I am, how I got here, why I'm doing this and what my goal is with this channel. I became aware of MGTOW philosophy over the past 6 months and immediately became enamored of it. These concepts were not unfamiliar to me. My close friends and I would discuss these same subjects all the time and contemplate why we were having such a hard time reaching equilibrium with the women in our lives. We kept seeing similar destructive patterns in the women we dated and within ourselves. The MGTOW, MRA and PUA community have all assisted us to clear up much of the confusion. A very sincere thanks to Sandman, Stardusk, Black Ram 313, TruthOverEverything, Arashti Bazaar, Honey Badger Radio, Barbarossa and many more for their assistance in better knowing my enemy. And a very special thanks to the person that first pulled me into this world of new thought, Karen Straughan. While she is a she, and therefore cannot be a MGTOW, it was her videos, Why Men Aren't Marrying, and The Disposable Male that set me on a course to sanity. I will put a link to her channel below. For the whole of my adult life I had made attempts to take women and their behavior seriously and it had proven to be a futile endeavor. The returns on investment during my search for the one had been ridiculously low, break even or most often, a loss. After years of vacillating between being a serial monogamist and a PUA, I had this very clear eureka moment. I was in the middle of an ongoing shit test administered by some broad in my circle of friends. When I first met this woman, she told me a sob story about her difficult past. I subsequently did everything I could to be supportive of her emotional issues and personal struggles. Yet no matter what I did, her behavior remained completely inconsistent, illogical and often mean-spirited. As I sat there one day pondering what the hell was wrong with this girl and what the hell I saw in her, it occurred to me, I don't really like women, I like pussy. Women sucked. Throughout my life they had consistently and relentlessly created problems for me and drained me of energy and resources. When I closely examined my motivations for continually chasing them, I realized that it was really only their pussy and faux intimacy I was after. It was their only leverage over me. Beyond their offering of crotch candy, they had repeatedly proven to be marginally useful at best, and even when they made themselves useful, the cost had almost always superseded the benefits. And BT dubs, a special thanks to Penny. All your sadistic bipolar behavior, mind games and shit testing may have saved my life. I'll forever be indebted to you and I will do my best to be a friend to you from arm's length. I will, however, never take you seriously or be a utility for you. And now as you start your run at the wall, I can already sense your agenda mutating to compensate. All I can say is happy 30th birthday and, boy did I dodge a bullet. Anyways, I digress. Like anyone else who is seeking answers, I turned not to religion, but to the World Wide Web. I can't remember what search phrase I used, but I immediately realized I was not alone in my desire for answers and clarity. There was this entire world dedicated to the subject. When I first started finding this information, it was like Neo consuming all that new data. I was a machine. I now knew Kung Fu. Or even better, the one thing I never thought would fall out of my mouth. I now understood women. Yep. That's right. All this time I kept thinking I wasn't doing something right, wasn't doing enough, wasn't meeting the right girl, and so on, and so on. Then came the red pill. I now begin to see clearly for the first time in years. The red pill was ugly, painful and anger-inducing, but absolutely necessary. The woman in the red dress and Agent Smith are both very real, and they're definitely working to fuck my shit up. I couldn't believe there was this whole community of people who saw the world the same way I was seeing it. People are suddenly articulating and reflecting things back to me that I had long thought were just my own rebellious notions. Finding all these new kindred spirits was definitely overwhelming. The many-sphere offers many incarnations, philosophies and fighting styles. I took my time and sifted through them all, searching for the right fit for me. These are the reasons I went with MGTOW. The MRA was interesting and provided some excellent insights from the political side of things, but it included too many women and married men within its ranks. Besides that, these videos are about as close as I will get to becoming an activist, so the MRA thing wasn't really for me. The PUA community had some interesting takes on maneuvering the female psyche and many hilarious tactics for chasing pussy, but I had been running those kinds of games on chicks my whole life. Chasing pussy, even if done surreptitiously, is a true waste of energy. The truth is I've never really had a problem getting laid. I've worked in the entertainment business most of my adult life, and in that line of work chicks were always waiting around every corner attempting to steal my resources. My real issues had nothing to do with my ability to secure pussy. My problems were relating to them while I was fucking them, dating them or having relationships with them, and getting rid of them when I was finished with them. So slick tactics in an effort to acquire more of them was of no interest to me. Not to mention the work involved in being a PUA requires way too much time, energy, attention and thought process. I will never work that hard at betting any woman ever again. I've already betted more women than I probably should have, and I'm pretty freaking lucky to have made it this far with only one child, 0 wives, and without acquiring some serious case of crotch rot. You really do need to know when to fold them and get up from the table. I mean shit, I'm already playing with house money. So, I love all the good work you young PUA studs are doing and all the game you're running on those scandalous gold-digging hoes. But I'll enjoy the show from the sidelines. Those hookup culture hoes are all yours. Be safe and wear condoms, my dudes. All that said, I eventually fell under the banner of MGTOW because the overall philosophy suited me best. Red pill mathematics just work for me. I'm a Gen Xer with an adult daughter, 0 interest in marriage, minimal interest in having another child, and I'm heavily engaged in my purpose. I also appreciated that the majority of MGTOW men I encountered were cerebral and articulate. Their arguments and philosophical viewpoints were predominantly logical, stat-based and grounded in research. It was a bit difficult to completely suppress my punhound tendencies, but since the red pill I have developed a much more efficient set of pump and dump strategies and strict scheduling habits. I now finally understand that pussy chasing is at best an occasional recreational activity that I allocate very limited amounts of time to. And when I do engage with the female species, I now go into any situation involving them with my eyes wide open. I now go into these situations aware that if a woman is breathing, she's probably lying. I now go into these situations aware that her definition of truth and love is completely different than my own. I go into this knowing that in her eyes, I am nothing more than a utility to serve her narcissistic pursuits. I do, however, also understand that it's not exactly their fault. Unlike my female counterparts, I am a man and I know how to be accountable. I was trying to bend the spoon, and that is impossible. Instead, I only needed to realize the truth. There is no spoon. There is no woman who can fix anything for me. The so-called one is a myth. Therefore, it wasn't the spoon that needed to bend. It was always about me and how I chose to define spoons. What I expected of spoons. I now understood that I was chasing a bacteria in a haystack. I also realized I was running way too many applications and my inner CPU was dragging because of it. MGTOW helped me to realize that many of the applications I had been running for years were just spyware and silly antiquated shit. These applications were useless and or harmful to me. A good friend of mine and I decided that we needed to do a hard reset. And subsequently we have spent months wiping our hard drives, installing an updated OS and re-evaluating exactly what software we wanted to run going forward. It's been brutal. It is, however, what you need to do when you have a fatal error of this magnitude. A huge thanks to my friend and MGTOW sponsor. This shit is like being a recovering addict, and if you don't have a sponsor, you should find one. Fighting the Fem Mafia and Construct is a full-time gig. We can all use a person to call when feeling the urge to go cipher. If you can't find a sponsor, then you need to take your red pills in heavy doses. Maybe 3 to 5 videos a day. Seriously. There are more than enough options in our growing MGTOW community to choose from. Just take your MGTOW meds. That's what I did early on and I'm better for it. As my anger and pain about the truth began to subside, true clarity returned to me for the first time since my adolescence. It was like when I was 7 or 8 years old, back before my dick started taking over my life. It was then that I began to ponder the ways I could get into the conversation and help more people become aware of the red pill sciences. But I wanted to do something different than what was already out there. There is no way I can get as scientific as Stardusk or Barbarossa. There is no way I can be as prolific as Sandman. A post a day is incredible. That guy is a machine. I'm aiming for 1 post a week. I know that I want to merge MGTOW with my purpose somehow, and this is what I have in mind. My primary purpose is filmmaking, and I ingest tons and tons of movies, series and books to better understand my craft. The nature of filmmaking is very much about encapsulating the human narrative. By default, becoming good at character architecture and environment building demands that you become a bit of a social and psychological scientist. So, what I'm going to do is watch, review and analyze the cinema and books I encountered from my new MGTOW perspective. Then, make suggestions to my fellow MGTOW. These reviews are not at all about critiquing these pieces. Mostly because I think that critics are talentless, jealous, cowards who can't make their own shit, so they waste their time judging others. But I digress. These reviews will be about using my journey as a filmmaker to create some MGTOW teaching opportunities and make you aware of things a MGTOW might find interesting. That is what I will attempt to do with my website and channel. I will attempt to do this with as few spoilers as possible. On occasion I will completely throw that notion out the window, as some things require a total autopsy. I will forewarn you on such occasions. Also, keep in mind there will probably be spoilers in the comments. It would seem obvious that the first film I'd cover would be The Matrix since it's so heavily referenced throughout MGTOW. Seemed like an obvious choice, but here's the thing. When I started analyzing the many layers of this film that relate to MGTOW, I realized it was a daunting task. There are so many scenes that speak to MGTOW mathematics, let's just say it's going to take me a while to spoon-feed it to myself with my new MGTOW eyes and then feed it back to you. I intend to dissect it via the 3-act structure. I'm almost done with Act 1. In the interim, here are a few other films you may want to consider checking out if you haven't seen them. There will be Blood, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. Perhaps the ultimate in MGTOW cinema. Yes, Daniel's character is kind of a bastard, but he goes his own way at all times and becomes very successful because of it. The best part is he destroys a bunch of Sympass agents in the process. The Men Who Built America. This is a History Channel documentary series about captains of industry shortly after the turn of the century. These men didn't spend a bunch of time worrying about whether or not some chick liked them. They were men whose prioritizing of purpose took them to great heights. Sherlock starring Benedict Cumberbatch. This is a BBC series about a modern Sherlock Holmes. He does a great job as an eccentric MGTOW sleuth. MGTOW is like breathing for him. He was just born that way. His life is dedicated to a logic-based purpose that he has defined. He sees the rest of it for what it is, a distraction from the truth. Sherlock is not to be confused with that trash elementary on American network television. The Last Samurai, starring Ken Watanabe and Tom Cruise. The movie is mostly about complex men doing man shit in Japan just before the turn of the century. It's a story about a samurai named Katsumoto. He's played by Ken Watanabe. Katsumoto is fighting the construct and the lure of Western ways. It's also about a damaged American soldier fighting to come to grips with his ugly past and find some redemption. It's about men of kindred spirits fighting a common enemy together. It's a film about honor. Of course there's a minimal sprinkling of love interest bullshit, but that's just Hollywood being Hollywood. It does however give you a quick glimpse into the female's dexterity at grabbing the next available utility. The Great Beauty, starring Tony Servillo. This is an Italian film about a MGTOW writer named Jeff Gambardella. Years after his early success as a novelist, he's living a life of leisure in Rome, which provides him the autonomy to contemplate the greater meaning of things. Then he meets some stripper chick that provides the impetus to potentially screw it all up for him. It's beautifully shot and well written. The Last American Virgin, starring Gary Mino's son. This old-school film is a cautionary tale about a simpast teenager who gets played while white knighting. If he had gone straight to MGTOW, none of it would ever have happened. Layer Cake, starring Daniel Craig. Another cautionary tale adapted from a novel of the same name. It's about a MGTOW drug dealer in London working his exit plan until he is drawn into a web of bullshit that revolves around a trust fund chicken head named Charlie, a scandalous hoe named Tammy and her beta male loser boyfriend who's suffering from a bad case of one-itis. Probably the sexiest few scenes of Sienna Miller's career. Her character is a case study in women using the beta male for security while sneaking off to fuck the alpha male. She is fucking gorgeous in this film, but certainly not worth the results she creates for the hero. The X-Files series, starring David Duchovny. It's about a MGTOW FBI agent named Fox Mulder who is pursuing his purpose. However, he is continually slowed down by a female agent who is supposed to be his partner but is constantly shaming him and secretly working as a double agent for the government. Sound familiar? In case you've stumbled across this video and have no idea what MGTOW is, I will include some links to the OGs below. Providing a thorough and proper introduction to MGTOW philosophy is way above my pay grade. These cats will break it all the way down for you. I repeat, it will be painful, and depending on your circumstances and constitution you may be better off staying plugged in and ignorant. Freeing a mind too late in the game can result in awful repercussions. In my next episode I'm going to examine one of my favorite cinematic dissections of the female psyche. The Counselor. Written by Cormac McCarthy and directed by Ridley Scott. It's no Matrix but very heavy in its own right. Thanks for checking me out. If you have any suggestions of films you'd like me to review, by all means let me know. You can follow me on Twitter at MGTOW CINEMA. And lastly, always remember, when it comes to women, never take them seriously, because if they are breathing, they are, more times than not, lying. So look again. And freeze it. I'm doing this to teach you one thing: if they're not one of us, they are one of them.